when a communal riot is depicted, a so-called Hindu-Muslim riot, it begins with an incident. What's the incident? A pig is slaughtered and its carcass thrown into a mosque, or a cow is slaughtered and its carcass thrown into a temple, or a noisy bunch of reveling Muslims go past a temple, or a noisy bunch of reveling Hindus go past a mosque at prayer time, and so on. These are like the cliches of how a clash takes place. Well, in the Tamas, it begins just like that. The question is, neither are Ashraf Muslims nor are upper caste Hindus going to kill a cow or a pig. Okay, you're not going to see necessarily some Ashraf Muslim sitting there slaughtering the cow, in order to do that, or certainly not going to see some Brahmin sitting there and cutting the throat of the pig. Okay, they hired Dalits to do that. I remember once there was a man who used to come and he would clean the floors in our apartment. But in our apartment, my father was an interesting character. As I told you, this man would do all kinds of things before he would zip off for his cigarette and so on. I remember once my father sent him with a note saying, tell the upstairs neighbor, just give the note. So this man, he's from Odisha, went and gave the note to the people upstairs. And then he went off for he used to love to cigarette and gamble, and so he disappeared. Then maybe the next day, my father heard all this ding-dong noise upstairs. They're having a havan. So he inquires, what's the havan? He said, because this man came in, we have to purify a house. My father was like, what the hell are you talking about? He was furious. He took this man upstairs and said, how dare you disrespect this man? He cleans my house. He works in another house. My dad was like that. But point I'm trying to make is Calcutta was bad enough. What I experienced in UP, I couldn't imagine how this graded hierarchy functioned in everyday life, Samit. You're saying it's got worse. I'll tell you what's happened. It's not that it's got worse. What's happened is, with the political assertion of the Dalit movements, of other so-called, what are known as other backward caste, but really oppressed caste movements, with the political assertion, through the BSP and also through the Samajwadi Party and so on, and other smaller parties, the section of the Brahmanical and the Thakur elites and so on have become much harsher against them. The violence has increased. We saw that in Bihar in the 70s. It's when, Kapuri Thakur, who was then the, chief minister there, when the reins of a system are loosened. Alexander de Tocqueville writes about this, by the way. He's warning aristocracies, when you start liberalizing the thing, then the revolution comes. And that's when the hammer goes down. So you see in UP, there's a kind of assertion of elite power against movements, but also clever. Because the BJP is cleverer than people give it. They have basically identified enemy number one is Muslims. That's enemy number one. And they want to do what the Hindu right has wanted to do for over 100 years. It's a term called Sangathan. Swami Shraddhanand in Punjab and in that region, Shraddhanand Saraswati was on this trip over 100 years ago. What is Sangathan? Sangathan means bringing together. And the logic was, let's bring together all the quote-unquote Hindus against the Muslims. The Hindus are weakened by fragmentation. Bring the Dalits in, but bring them in and tell them their place. But bring them in nonetheless. This is a 100-year project. So you see that happening now. Right now, there are all these Dharm Sansads going on in anticipation of the election this year in UP. And at all these Dharm Sansads, the violent language against Muslims is to be heard, to be believed. You will not believe it unless you hear them on tape, the things they say. But they are not going after Dalits or anything there. You see, they want to discipline Dalits, but they want to attack Muslims. That's the distinction I would like to make.